Hey guys, and happy Sunday. So for today, I'm going to be making two DIYs for you. The first one I'm going to be making using one of these Dollar Tree signs. It's like from Memorial Day or 4th of July. And then these paintbrushes and some paints that I got from Plaid. I'm actually a Plaid ambassador, and they just recently sent me my first box, and it was chocked full of paint and paintbrushes and Mod Podge and other tools. And I'll link that video where I did the unboxing in my description box. But I'm going to go ahead and paint the back of the sign with a couple of coats of the white Waverly chalk paint. Sorry. And then I did cover up that hole with some of the spackle. So I'm going to be using the etchings on the sign as my guide. I'm going to take this masking tape and I'm going to make some lines all the way across the sign. So just a helpful tip, if you're trying to make lines like this using tape, and this works even when you're like painting on walls or anything like that, what you do is you take the base coat color and you paint, you paint over the tape right along the edge there, so that, it covers up a little bit of the tape, but you cover up whatever you're painting as well, if that makes sense. You can see what I'm doing. So then I'm going to sit that out down to the off to the side, not down to the side, off to the side to dry, because you want that to dry really, really well. And I'm going to start working on this little lighthouse. Now, I just found this at the Dollar Tree recently, and I thought it would be perfect for this project. So what I'm going to do is cover up the holes with some more of this masking tape, just so, everything is kind of flat, or I don't know, so that it's covered in the back. And then I'm going to take my spackle, and or is this spackle? Yeah, spackle. And I'm going to cover up all the holes, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be rough. You want it to look like stone or like rock, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And then just set that off to the side to dry as well. And I'm just going to, take my heat gun and kind of make sure that all this is dry, because it has to be dry in order for this to work. And then you don't want the colors to mix either. So I'm going to take this red and I'm going to color, or not color, I keep wanting to say color. I'm going to paint the bottom stripe, the middle stripe, and the top stripe all in red. And it took a few coats because you could still kind of see through. But guys, look, this is so satisfying. Look at the crisp line when you take that tape off. It's so satisfying. Look at it. It's perfect. And, sometimes it helps with the bleed through every once in a while. If you don't press that tape down all the way, you don't get as crisp of a line. But oh my gosh, look at that. It's perfection. It is perfection. I was trying to find a finger that didn't have paint on it, so I didn't get paint on my white stripes there. And if you haven't guessed already, I am making a Puerto Rican flag because I am Puerto Rican and I'm very proud of it. So I'm going to be making a flag. And I thought this sign, I just like the shape of the sign and how kind of the edges weren't perfect. And I just thought it was, I just loved it. So that's why I'm using this sign. So I'm going to measure out how to, where I want to put my triangle. And it took me a few times to kind of get it the size and the way that I wanted it. But finally, I was able to get it and I measured it out right. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the tape. Go ahead and put the tape on there. Make sure you smooth it all the way down so there's no bubbles or anything like that. And I'm going to do the same thing. Wherever it was red, I'm going to put a coat, like a thin coat of red over it. And wherever it was white, I'm going to put a thin coat of white on there. And, I'm telling you, this is the way to get those perfect lines. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry completely before I move on to painting the triangle blue. Then I'm just going to go ahead and go in with the blue paint, and paint the whole thing. This took about, I think, 3 coats, and it still wasn't completely covered. But I just didn't want to keep putting more and more paint on there, so I just stopped with that coat. Look at that crisp line. It is amazing. I love it. It's just so satisfying to see that, see those lines once you pull that tape off. So then I'm going to take my heat gun, just make sure that it's dry so that I can move on to the next step. Now, the Puerto Rican flag does have a star on the blue triangle there. And initially I was just going to paint it on there. Then I was walking through the store and I saw a couple different packs of stars. So I grabbed them both, and I'm going to use the foam scatter stars here, and I'm going to actually cut one of them in half, and then I'm just going to hot glue that on there. Now these things are really glittery, so once I'm done cutting it, I am going to just put a quick coat of the Waverly white chalk paint on it just to cover up that glitter, because I'm not a fan of glitter. So I'm just going to give it a quick coat, cover up all the glitter there, and put it off to the side to let it dry. Now I'm going to go back and start working on my lighthouse again. And then I'm going to be using some of this Plaid FX, I think it's flexible paint, I think it's called. And I'm going to be using this desert sand color, and I'm going to add a little bit of this, I think it's called Cafe Mocha or something like that. It's brown. So I'm just going to put a drop of that in there, mix it up, and then I'm going to just give this a nice little quick coat over all the spackled part. Now in Puerto Rico, there is a landmark. It's called El Morro, and that is kind of what I'm trying to make this look like. Now, hindsight is 2020. When I was doing this, I should have cut that back part off before I started painting and putting the spackle on, but initially I was just going to glue it on there like this, and then I realized it would be sticking out too much. So either way, I ended up just cutting those little pieces of wood and removing that back part where the light is at, because I just didn't want that on there anymore. And then excuse me. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my star, hot glue it onto the blue part, and see, you can still see like the red and white stripes through the blue, but I just didn't want to keep painting over it and mess up my line, so I just left it like that. So then once I'm done gluing the star on there, I'm going to move on to my little lighthouse, and I'm going to glue that on with, I'm going to put my Jenga blocks on the back of it just to give it a little bit more dimension, and then I'm going to glue that onto the sign. Now, I haven't visited Puerto Rico in a very long time, but when I have visited, the one thing that I loved, and I don't know why I was always so just so I don't know, intrigued by it, was the coquis. And I just love the sound that they make, and I took time and I perfected the sound so that when I came back to the States, I would just sit, outside and just make the coquis sound, and it's so, I would do that outside, and I just absolutely, I don't know, I was so fascinated by that sound. But guys, this is what it looks like when it's all done, and I absolutely love it. So today I am part of the Hop Around Latin America collab, and it is an amazing group of Latina DIYers, and we just came together and decided to, give us a little bit of ourselves in these DIYs and about our culture. And guys, be sure to check out everybody in the hop, because this is a giveaway, and you have to go to everybody's video and answer it's not a question really. Everybody has a word that they say in Spanish, and you have to give the English version of it in the comments. So definitely check everybody out, and I will have the next person in the hop in my description box, so be sure to hop on over to the next person and follow the links all the way around the hop. So for my next one, and I absolutely love this DIY, I'm going to be using 3 of these little drawer boxes that I got from the Dollar Tree, and everything I believe in this DIY is from the Dollar Tree, and a bunch of these different signs from the Dollar Tree, and all I did was just measure them out to the size that I wanted. Now, I would give you the dimensions and stuff, but depending on the sign that you're using and how big you want to make it or whatever, you just cut it down to size. So I ended up cutting 3 of these Easter signs down to the same size, and it's going to make my 2 sides and my back side. Excuse me, I'm out of breath here. And then right now what I'm doing is just kind of measuring out how I'm going to want them, how I want the space in between them. And it's not going to be perfect because obviously, I can't get the space right unless it's actually glued in there. But just to give myself an idea of where I want to mark it and cut it and do all that. So you just, measure everything out the way that you see fit according to whatever you're using. If you're using foam board or, signs or cardboard or, wood pieces, whatever you're using, just measure it out to the way that you want it, how big you want it to be. So I'm going to take this longer sign and I'm going to cut it down into 3 pieces, 3 equal sizes. And I ended up not needing 3, but I cut 3. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the base, and I'm just going to use these 2 leftover pieces like from the tops of the signs, just so I don't waste anything. And I just hot glued those together. And then just to give it a little bit more stability, I took a piece of canvas from a previous DIY and I just glued that to the bottom. So I measured it out and then I glued it to the colorful side of the sign. No, did I? Yeah, I covered up the colorful side of the sign, just like I said, to give it a little bit more stability and hold the 2 pieces together. And I just use hot glue for that. And it doesn't matter that there's holes in it because it's going to be covered up anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to go ahead, cut off the excess canvas, and then that's done. Kind of sand it down, smooth everything out, and that's it for that. So then it's time to make the actual, so what I'm doing is making a little like drawer set here, or like a little, I don't know, this little drawer. Then I'm going to go ahead and just hot glue all these pieces together. So I'm going to do the back piece and glue that on to the right side and make sure everything is nice and even. And these signs aren't perfect. They're a little bit uneven. Some of them are bowed. So you just kind of work with it and, just hope that it comes out, the way that you want to. I tried to pick the best pieces, the best signs that I had. But again, some of them were uneven. They're not necessarily like straight lines or anything like that, so you just kind of work with it. I did have to sand them down a little bit, kind of smooth them out, make them even. So then I'm gluing on that left side as well. So now I have all the sides to my box, I have the bottom to my box, and I'm just going to take a strip, what is it called, like just a line of hot glue on the inside to kind of hold that together. And I just made sure it was nice and smooth in there, so I just kind of pressed the tip of my hot glue gun along the corner so it makes it nice and smooth. So then the next thing that I'm going to do is put the piece onto the bottom. Excuse me again, my throat is dry. I'm just going to go ahead and glue the top part of it onto the bottom, and I'm using the box just to kind of make sure that it's even and that I can get the sides to kind of stick on there the right way. Just kind of measured and made sure. And then I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue the bottom onto the, what looks like now the top, but it's the bottom of it. And I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue that on there. And if you want to, you can use wood glue or E6000 or crazy glue or whatever you want. But this, Gorilla Glue stick works great for me. So then I'm just going to do the same thing, put a bead of hot glue along the inside on all the sides there just to make sure that it sticks on there. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is work on the shelves or the drawers. So I don't know why I didn't show I showed this earlier, but anyway, I'm taking this longer sign, cutting it into 3 pieces so that I can use that to put the drawers into here. I don't know, I feel like I'm not making making a whole lot of sense right now, but you can see what I'm saying. So then I'm just trying to make sure that these pieces fit in there well, and some of them were a little bit wider than others, so I ended up just kind of having to recut them and sand them down just to make sure that they fit in there. All right, so then now that all of those are cut down to size, sanded down, and they're the right width and whatever, I'm going to go ahead and measure where I want to put them all. So of course you want it to be sturdy, so what I'm going to do is take the small popsicle sticks or craft sticks and glue those where I marked it off on the side there. And I just went ahead and put 2 on each side, and then I glued each one of those boards on top of the popsicle sticks, and then you just, I went through, put extra glue, put the bead around it, secured it in there really well. And then I was going to use like 2 pieces of the sign on the top, but I didn't want that seam, so I just went ahead and got some foam board. And this is not the one from the Dollar Tree. This is actually one that I got from like a office supply, and it's a lot sturdier and it just works a lot better. But I just measured out excuse me, I measured out a square, cut it out with the razor, and then I just glued that onto the top of the dresser or the little drawer there. Then once I was done doing that, I was gonna like stain everything with white chalk paint. Then I decided that I didn't really want to do that. I kind of liked the way that the wood looked with the wood sides there. And even though the woods don't necessarily match, they looked really good together, so I didn't paint the sides. What I did was I painted the top of the drawer or the little drawer thing black. And I did go through and put a bead of glue along the bottom of the top, if that makes sense. Then, so yeah, just pulled out all the drawers, and I'm going to go ahead and paint the top black, and I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint and ink, and I'm almost done with it. I need to get some more. So I'm just going to give it one good coat, and that's all I did with that. And then on the edges, I didn't want to like mess it up and get paint all over the place, so I just took my acrylic paint pen and I just went along the edges. And that was it, guys. That is all I had to do to make this adorable little dresser, drawer, I don't know what you want to call it. But oh, you know what? Then when I was looking at it, I realized you could see like the insides of it. So I decided to just paint those black as well. And if you want, you can obviously go all the way to the back or paint it before you even start gluing everything together. I didn't really catch it or think about it until after the fact, but I just went through, painted it black, and this is how it looks. I think it's adorable. You can use it on your desk, on your dresser for jewelry or makeup or anything like that. And I mean, you can use it for anything. So guys, be sure to check out everybody in the hop, answer everybody's question, and until next time, be blessed and be the reason someone smiles. Bye guys.